It was 4 pounds of cranberries in 1/25th scale. They come out to an inch, which is a little big for a cranberry.
Well, not for the hybrid.
There you go.
I mean, they're getting bigger, every year.
I'm with two of the greatest vintage truck builders ever. Jeff Harper, Charles Rowley. These guys have 2 new builds.
Yeah, this is a 1948 Sterling. When I was growing up, they were quite prevalent around this area. There was a company in Middleborough called Mack Construction, and they had a number of these. And where I lived on what was then Middleborough Road, which is now Cranberry Highway, I always knew if they were coming because they would let off the brakes probably a quarter mile up the road because it was a little bit of a slope or a little bit of a pitch, and you could always hear the change. When they let off the gas, the change went from being slack on the bottom to slack on the top, and you could always tell what they were doing. So this has always been a favorite of mine. I bought an original casting from Dave Natal. He sent me one of these castings and I modified it, shortened the hood and put different louvers on the hood, changed the radiator, and when he saw what I was doing, he said, "Will you send that back to me so that I can make a master and then I'll send you a resin casting of it," which he did. So when I took it, I cut the hood off and I opened the doors and I made new hood pieces out of brass so they would open. Opened up the doors, then went to work to make a dump truck, similar to what I would have seen when I was a kid. So it's a resin casting of the cab. The body is scratch built of plastic, except for here, this part is brass, just mounted on the back. So from the top of the body up and around, including this piece, that's brass that's been soldered together.
Yeah, it looks just right. I mean,
Yeah.
it looks, there's metal under there.
Yeah.
It's that thin.
So when I saw online pictures, I happened to see that there was a particular hoisting mechanism that this particular truck used. So I've tried to capture that. It's unusual. Most of the hydraulics would be set up in a little different way, but this is the way this particular truck was that I saw online. I liked it, and so I built it that way. And then went sort of the extra mile, I guess you could say, and made it so that I could actually pull the lever on the dump body. All right, so the body opens. Put that up by hand because I don't have it spring-loaded, but I can open up the tailgate by just pulling this lever because there's a lever attached to it that runs back here to a cam on each side. And the cam activates the little dog that opens up and allows the tailgate to close and open. So just pulling that forward opens it up. Just something different, but it takes, as Jeff knows as well as I, it takes a little bit of thought and a little bit of engineering discipline to figure out how you're going to do it and get it done.
And doing it in brass helps when you're doing those kind of fine details.
Oh, no question about that. The change in the sprockets came from Micromark, and the links you can take apart so you can adjust the links to whatever length you need. And I borrowed the jack shaft from the old Mack AC kit and just modified it. The tires are resin castings, a little bit of weathering in the body. Tried to make it look like it was an everyday truck, but still in good shape, but obviously has been used.
Still a truck the company was proud of.
Yeah.
They kept it clean, they kept it up.
Yeah. And the doors do open, and the hood opens.
That's standard fare for you. The door is open. Everything functions.
Well,
it's part of the fun when you build.
It is.
It's, solving that, getting those hinges so they're just right.
But it's a feature that when you do it, you get a better look at what's on the inside. Whereas if you keep them closed, you've got to try and find your way in through the windows, which aren't obviously well lit most of the time.
Well, that's the opportunity.
Yeah.
Put all that detail in there and get it seen.
So that was a fun piece to do. It really was. This one here just amazes me because Jeff hasn't said so, and he should, that it was modeled after the 1/32nd scale kit. So everything was brought up to 1/25th by him doing a drawing first and then doing the special wheels.
Yeah, the rear wheels, the outside rim is a piece of sink trap plumbing because I found something at the right diameter and a material I could work with. And the centers are actually on the rears. The centers are from the General locomotive, and I was able to work those out. And the front one is a wheel I had mastered previously for Dave Natal as well. But it's interesting that your mechanism, you want to lift the bed back up?
Yeah.
Your mechanism is a horizontal ram system. And in '07, Mack had this system, which was gear driven with chain, and it's a vertical hoist system. So it's kind of the same system in a different format. And instead of using hydraulics, they just used a PTO to power that, to run the chains to bring the bed up.
And that was probably very dependable. And this being hydraulic was pretty high tech at the time.
Yeah, but by the time these came out, they were actually, on some trucks they were using air brakes. Jeff and I did models of a 1932 Mack AP, which they used in building Boulder Dam.
Yes.
And they had Westinghouse air brakes on those 32 Macks. Hard rubber tires in the back to carry the load, but pneumatics in the front. But Westinghouse air brakes.
As opposed to the early Macks that had no front brakes at all. And they had rod actuated mechanical brakes in the rear. And I believe the AC is like that too. This is the grandfather to the AC, because this is the '07.
So what was the top speed? I mean, these trucks were short delivery runs.
Well, this was like probably 18, 20 miles an hour, really.
Right.
You know, and the roads you couldn't expect much more out of the roads beyond that, anyways. But they were geared to work, not to travel long distances.
Right.
In our junkyard tours, and looking at the old chains on these old trucks, and it says, don't run the chains too tight, don't run the chains too loose. And you got your plaque on the dashboard that says, top speed 18 miles an hour, do not overspeed the truck.
Do you remember the trip we made to the Connecticut Museum, Middlebury, Connecticut, when we did the Macks, the AC Macks?
Yes.
Do you remember the 1928 Pierce Arrow, the yellow dump truck? There was a plate on the frame of that truck, and it said, driving more than 25 miles an hour will void the warranty. This was for a 7-ton dump truck made by Pierce Arrow. Yeah. That particular truck, I think, was used in New York City.
And they were glad to have it back then, you know?
Yeah.
That's what I like about this era of trucks, is there's not a lot of standardization, you know? There's so many different things that were being done at the time. Even electric trucks. In the teens, they had Walker electric trucks, you know?
Lead acid batteries.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And now 100 years later, we're back in that same position.
Sure.
Yeah, New Bedford Fire Department had ladder trucks that were powered by electric batteries.
Like Charlie said, this is based on a fairly rare Premier kit from the early 60s, and it was 1/32 scale. And unfortunately, I'm a terrible scale bigot. I love all early trucks, but they have to be in my scale. But the '07 Mack was such a pretty little truck, and they also had those lithographs that Mack did through the years, and they had the different trucks, and one of them was this truck as well. I had pictures, but I also took the original kit and I did the math and actually blew up each tree on the copy artwork, and then a lot of that didn't work out scale-wise.
Sure.
But I was able to get some information from the Mack Museum. I knew what the wheelbase had to be. It had these crazy tall tires on the back. Drew it all out in AutoCAD first, and then went on. And the tailgate had a beautiful Mack logo on it, right in the center, embossed. And I was like, how am I going to get the new tailgate to have that? Because the original tailgate's only this big. Well, I just took the original tailgate, and I built 2 more panels. So instead of having 3 panels, it's got 5 panels, and that's the original kit part with the Mack logo on it. And the Goodwin sand and gravel was in the picture of the one I had. I bought a picture from eBay, and it happens that my cousin is a Goodwin from New York, so I was like, that's right where I'm going with that. It's mostly scratch built. You know, there's a few, the front rubber is from the Mack kit. Some of those kits, the hard rubber tires were terribly hard. And the new ones don't have the lettering on the side. Took some rubber out of the new kits, and of course I could never stretch it around. So I cut them into strips and glued and pinned them, and then wrapped it around as far as I could, and then took another one and glued it and pinned it and wrapped it around. So there's 4 of those on there as well.
You guys are so dedicated. So it's it's so great to look at these because it's a story. You just kind of work your way through it, keep discovering all the great details.
It's funny how sometimes the one you're working on is the most important build, but the one you're working on is your new favorite, and you have other favorites. And then sometimes you do one and you finish it and it's not your favorite. It goes to the back of the cabinet. But this one sits out on the top, it's about eye level in my office, and I go by it and I look at that and I'm like, I'm still pretty happy with that.